Hi, this is Nekole Shapiro.
And Kathryn Julia. Just call me Kathy.
And this is my mom. And we're both holistic peer counseling instructors, and we both happen to be in the same town. So we thought maybe we'd do a little Facebook Live in case anyone's got any questions about what holistic peer counseling is about or what it's done for our lives or our students' lives. So yeah, that's why we're here. You want to talk a little bit about what it's been like for you to teach it?
Well, it's really interesting to teach it because one of the first things that comes up for everybody is denial. I don't have any problems. I don't have nothing really bothers me. But then you start talking, and then it all starts to really come forward. And I think that denial comes from the fear of actually facing the patterns that are running our lives and not wanting to admit it. But then what I love is seeing the peace that people get once they realize that if I recognize the pattern and I give it some attention, and all of a sudden it doesn't run my life so much, So yeah, there's barriers to break through, but it's all of our barriers, it's just the way it goes for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you're making me think a lot about shame.
Yeah, I think shame is a part of it, just like, no, I have it together. I'm an adult now. This stuff doesn't bother me. Yeah. Oh, my parents weren't that bad,
Yeah, I've definitely heard that. Well, my life was great compared to a lot of other people's. And gratitude is wonderful medicine, without a doubt. And breaking that denial. Well, I think of shame as a control pattern, or like that dismissiveness as a control pattern that keeps us from feeling our feelings. And then when we don't feel our feelings, it's harder to have true empathy with other people. So I can have gratitude because my life has been wonderful in comparison to maybe somebody else's life. And when I can feel my own feelings about the challenges that I have had, I'm actually more, my empathy is more available to hear about the struggles that other people have had in their lives in an empathetic, human way.
And empathy for yourself. Being able to really feel that empathy for yourself rather than the fear, the shame, the running away when something comes up. You're talking about, I didn't have it as bad as other people. And one thing I recognized when I was in a room with, 50 people for, 6 weeks going over this stuff every day is, trauma's trauma. And what affects you. Like, I saw a woman be more traumatized by the fact that her father didn't acknowledge a good grade that she got on a paper than a woman who had been, incestually molested by her father through her life. So it's all about, trauma's trauma, and we can't judge the situation comparing it to ourselves.
That's a whole can of worms you just opened there.
Always.
You know what, actually, that reminds me of is something that was said to me when I was looking at going to acupuncture school, which was treat what you see. And so in that moment, as you're talking about that, the person, I definitely don't consider myself like a mental health trauma expert, so I can't decide if someone's more or less traumatized by something. But as they're talking about it, I can be present for what is coming up for them. And definitely I've been in situations that you're similar to what you're describing, where somebody is having a lot of emotional release about something like, not getting acknowledgement for grades. And likewise, I've definitely been present with people who are completely disconnected from their feelings about things that we would consider to be really horrific traumas.
Yeah.
So that speaks really well to what we do with peer counseling, because clearly we're not mental health professionals, and the training is not to assume that we are mental health professionals. We are peer counselors. And the primary medicine of peer counseling is to provide loving attention to other people and to our peers. And that's a multi-part process. It involves clearing our own pain so that we can access our own loving attention.
Hi, David.
Which is an ongoing, that's life work to continue to find the places in us where we can have more access to love for other people. And then the tool, so that we have a lot of exercises that must be practiced. They're not something you're going to read and then it's all done.
Yeah.
It's a practice. And obviously we're not like the ultimate of practices. We have a lot of practices. Many of them are in the book. But, one of the things that becomes clear the more you work with people is many of us have our own practices to help us connect to a loving space within ourselves. And we just want to make sure that we're aware that that's what we're doing, so that then we can practice it purposely and continue to do it. And then there's the work of being present with another person with that loving attention. And oftentimes, while they're talking about things that we may or may not be able to stay in a loving space around. And that's the tools that are taught in the peer counseling work. So there's really like two things that are going on while you're learning peer counseling. You're learning the tools. We're introducing you to multiple exercises and tools to keep clearing our own stuff. And then we're also introducing you to and helping you practice tools to peer counsel with one another. And then they feed on each other. They're very symbiotic, because in the process of peer counseling with someone, you might go, wow, look at me being really reactionary to that. Maybe I should go and work this exercise on that topic, or maybe I should go and peer counsel with somebody else on this topic, so that we can continue to work our own triggers as medicine, and hopefully utilize it therapeutically for ourselves, and then also clear it out so that then we can continue to be better peer counselors for the peers that we counsel with.
Well, exactly. I mean, we're our first client.
Yeah.
We're our first client. Yeah. So the more my experience is, the more I process on myself, the more I work out these things with myself, the more I use these tools, and the grounding exercises and such with my own self and my own dilemmas. It is much easier to disconnect from myself or my dilemmas and just be in my true loving self and be with the person that's I'm peer counseling with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's the tools in peer counseling that have really helped me to be able to not be my drama. Just, oh, that is the drama. Oh, look at this drama. Oh, look at my opportunity. I can plug in, or I can be real with it. But you can't go, oh no, and then run away and try and think of something else, or go to something that's going to make you feel better. You gotta just feel it. Feelings are 20 seconds? They come and go. It's the mind that holds on to the thought that makes the feeling keep coming back. So once I remember that, then it's like, okay, here it is. I feel like I want to punch somebody. Okay, yeah, we're done.
Yeah, that's one of these things that you said to me as a child growing up all the time. And so, hi, Amali.
Hi, Amali.
Nice to see you. That speaks to another aspect of holistic peer counseling, which is the holistic aspect, and is definitely something that I've infused the peer counseling curriculum with. Like, I was given a holistic peer counseling curriculum when I learned it, and one of the things that I really wanted to do with it was introduce the embodiment element of it.
Yes.
And so that's one of the sets of practices that I brought to it, which speaks to what you were just saying, which is this, the emotion moves through our body. And so because I grew up with this understanding that things move through my body, when things start to move through my body, I'm not, it doesn't scare me. I can allow it to move through my body. And that said, since I've been teaching for the last 10 years or so, it's become clear to me that that's not something everybody is aware of when it's happening or has access to. And going back again to what I consider a control pattern, which is the control pattern of shame, in many cases that experience has actually been shamed. Like people have had levels of shaming placed on them around being able to feel their emotions move through their bodies.
Well, and feel their body, period.
Yeah. Right, and it all usually plays hand in hand. So as we work on the control pattern of shame, and we can eventually help people get to feeling how the emotion moves through our body, feeling how, okay, for the next 5 seconds, I'm probably really going to want to punch that person. And obviously I'm not going to actually do that.
Right.
As opposed to, I feel like punching that person. Obviously I should punch that person. I punch that person. Uh-oh, now I'm in trouble for assault. Right. There's this.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love the one little saying we have in Hawaii is like, no shame. No shame. You know, and that's true, because shame is such a block. Mm-hmm. It just blocks you from everything. It blocks you from the people around you and from yourself. Mm-hmm. So no shame.
Yeah, definitely. You're making me think about too when I'm like, there's no rush.
No shame, no rush.
There's no rush.
Yeah.
We rush.
Right. The joke about oh, take this weekend workshop and you'll be free of all your karma and you'll be free of everything. And, you know, I mean, that was kind of a big thing in the 90s, you know, come take this workshop and you'll be completely enlightened by the end of it. And it was like, and I do the workshop. So what I really realized is, and I gained some tools, but this is a lifelong process. We're in a physical body on a physical planet, and we're going to always have feelings. We're going to always come up against experiences. You know, and it's awesome to just have tools to know how to maneuver, how to maneuver through it all. And the ultimate goal for me is to just be able to feel loving, just to feel loving, you know, to love or to be loving, and let all those other feelings just come and go. But the love is what the permanent thing. Mm-hmm. The love is the solid. You know, it's other stuff that just kind of puts a shadow over it if you know, and then do you want to be the shadow? You want to be the love.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I think has been really mind-blowing for a lot of us that practice holistic peer counseling. Again, a lot of the things we're talking about are in the book. So I'm going to talk about patterns and latent and control. I've said control patterns already, and then there's latent and chronic patterns. And the control patterns are anything that stops us from moving our emotions through. Any message like that was passed down to us, which is don't cry, you're too loud, you're taking up too much space. And so it sort of like creates this habitual response to our emotions, which is to hold them in. And that's control patterns. So once we can kind of crack some of the control patterns, and a lot of, in the beginning, that's just permission, where we're like, yeah, you sound really mad. Want to talk about it?
It's okay to be mad.
Want to punch something? Yell at somebody? I'm right here. And then moving on to latent patterns. So usually what happens is first the control patterns start to release, and we find that people can release those latent patterns, which is like right now something just happened. I'm having an emotional response to it. I'm feeling free to have that emotional response to it, and now it's over. And then when we get to the chronic patterns, those are the things that I describe as we're not quite sure if it is who we are. It's hard to distinguish whether or not this is a pattern or it's like innately who I am. That's what I think of when you talk about the shadow and whether or not we believe it. When we get to those chronic patterns is when it gets really hard to discern whether or not I'm trying to think of an example. Am I really too big? Right? Am I too big for the space? Am I really taking up too much space? If that message has been sent to me over and over and over and over again, then I start to feel the pain of what it was like to have had, let's say, a lot of passion about something and be expressing myself, and then a bunch of people looking at me like, why are you talking about that? Or literally yelling at me for being that way. And then, wondering why I have imposter syndrome. So it's like you can work it back and work it back so that once we start to release the feelings of having had our passion and intelligence and emotion take up space and other people try and tamp it down, once we can actually access and release the feelings around that, usually we have to come up against this identity piece, which is this who I am? Am I actually this shadow or this chronic pattern? Or am I just believing it because I haven't yet cleared all the emotions of the pain that it was like for me to receive those messages? And once we, and that gets really tricky, right? Because it takes time. It takes time to even get to that point, and then it takes time to work it. And I'm really grateful to some of my teachers who reminded me to be gentle with myself through the process. I couldn't ever have gotten to some of that real core stuff if I had been violent with myself, and just really gently letting that all kind of fall away, so that then when, a colleague says to me, are you having imposter syndrome? I can go, oh, dang it. That's right. Okay. Here I am, showing up again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm not afraid of the feelings that were attached to it before. I mean, they're still attached to it, but I'm not afraid of them.
That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
You're not afraid of them, and you're not running away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome. That's a new one. I just learned something.
Yeah.
It's true, though. It's true. Am I this or am I that? And I just feel really grateful to the teachers that I've had that just constantly keep reminding me that I'm nothing but pure love. Love and joy and compassion, and everything else is just, well, what they call it is Maya, but everything else is just the
illusion,
the soup, the illusion. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that shadow piece, right? And so in peer counseling language, we would just call those patterns. When we've learned from teachers from other cultures, we often have to work to try and find the English translation for
certain things have the same meaning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, like in holistic peer counseling, we say getting triggered.
Mm-hmm.
My initial teachings were, oh, that pushed my buttons.
Oh, right.
But it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just,
press the trigger button.
Push the button, get triggered.
Well, we only got about 2 more minutes, and we'll have this up on our Facebook page if anybody wants to look at it later. Hopefully we can do some more. I just don't know how to do these from another place. She's in Hawaii, so why don't you say where you're teaching it and what you've been up to? Okay,
so where holistic peer counseling is in Honolulu, and we do 10-week training, which is 1 night a week, 3 hours a night, and we'll be starting up again in mid-January. So at the Quantum Institute, and right in Honolulu. So if you want to call 988-4440 to get more information, or you can just hook up
808.
808, sorry. right. Or you can just hook up with me through Facebook, Kathryn Julia. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
And then we have constant correspondence course offered, holisticpeercounseling.com. You can register at any time, and as long as you're sort of moving along, it takes however long it takes, which is part of why we moved it to the correspondence version, because you hit some of these deep
snags.
Yeah, you think like, oh, I'm going to take that peer counseling course, and then I'm going to learn how to do that thing, and then all of a sudden you're looking at some piece of your personality that is attached to some piece of pain that maybe even you forgot was there. And we want to create the space and time for everyone to navigate through that. We're definitely not interested in bypassing that and acting like it's not there. That would be pretty much the antithesis to our work. So, so holisticpeercounseling.com. The textbook is available there as a download. There's also our new neutrality exercise workbooks. These are all focused on birth. More will be coming soon for parenting and massage therapists, since Mom's teaching it with massage therapists. And then they're all available on Amazon if you want to actually get the paperback version. All right, guys.
Well, so good to have you with us today.
We'll see you later.
Thank you, Nicole. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming.